Hello everybody, Khraze here, and in today's video I want to talk about a topic that I see being brought up more and more often lately. This is a concern I see being raised by a lot of you, especially after I made the video on how to get ready for the next update. So it seems that many of you fear that with the next update, Hello Games might have to reset all of our progress in No Man's Sky, and that everything you do right now in preparation for that is pretty much a waste of time. I'm not sure where this idea even originated from, and there are many variations to it. Like, some folks believe it will happen because multiplayer is a separate game mode, while others believe it's because PvP will require balancing and it would be unfair if we didn't all start from scratch. I'll say it from the very beginning, I don't believe there's an actual progression reset with the next update, so there's nothing for you to actually fear for. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and dive into all of the details more extensively. So first of all, I'm going to start off with what I believe to be the origin of this whole concern. Many of you might not know this, but when the previous update got out, the entire universe of No Man's Sky got a huge reset, which pretty much ended in every single solar system as well as planet in it being completely changed. This was mostly out of technical reasons, as Hello Games implemented something that they called galactic regeneration. This was essentially nothing more than a complete redesign of the galactic view, as well as some tweaks to the biome generation algorithm. The only difference you'd see if you were on a planet before the update is that after the update that planet would be completely changed. In my example, I was on a very lush planet before Atlas Rises hit, but after the update it transformed into a radioactive waste. So it happened throughout the entire universe of No Man's Sky, and it still didn't touch anything from my progression. I was still able to access the exact same things that I was able to do before. I think it also has to do in part with the fact that the main Alice Path storyline also got an overhaul, and this in turn probably reset some of the progression of some people. Like, if you were doing the Alice story mission before the update and if you didn't complete it, since it was overhauled with the Alice Rises, you most probably had to do it from the very beginning, but that still didn't affect any of your progression inside the game at all. Like, everything you had prior to this, you already had after the update as well. So if you, for example, had certain ships, multi-tools, unlocked blueprint technologies or items in your inventory, they would still be there even after all of these changes. So from my guess, I think that this probably sprung out of some type of misunderstanding from the player base. I did talk about the grand reset in previous videos, and I think somebody must have picked up on that and thought I was talking about actual full character progression reset, while in fact I was only talking about the planet biome generation at most. Second of all, there was a mention that since PvP will be a huge deal with next, whatever progression someone has right now is unfair towards newer players and thus would require a total reset so everybody can start from the very bottom. This is something that I really think Hello Games would never actually consider, and it doesn't really make that much sense in any PvP situation, much less in a game such as No Man's Sky. So I'll give you an example with MMORPGs, and you could jump into one right now and start from the very beginning, and there would be millions of people out there with much better gear than you. That doesn't mean their progression should be reset just because there's an influx of new players. You can always catch up to them, and this is so much easier in No Man's Sky, where there's no actual grind. You don't have to fight bosses, you don't have to go into dungeons. Like, everything is available to you from the very beginning. Even if you start the game from the very scratch, you only need at most a few days to get everything you need, because we all have access to the same game. So every farm out there, you can access it much like everybody else. You can just go there, collect the loot and build everything and then sell it. Trading, pretty much the same. You can all access the same trade routes. All the multi-tools and the spaceships that have ever been discovered and cataloged so far, you can go ahead and buy them with ease. And it's very easy to earn units in No Man's Sky. In like 2 days tops, you can make hundreds of millions of units even on your own, let alone if you go and explore and play the game normally or access other players' farms, just so we are clear on that. We also have to take into account the fact that No Man's Sky is absolutely massive, and not only that, there are 255 galaxies out there. So eventually, yes, you might end up finding another player, but for the vast majority of your playthrough, you're most probably going to play alone. Like, the chances for you to find another player are pretty slim unless you're actively searching for one. And one such place would be a hub. For example, a very overcrowded hub. Yes, you would have a high chance of finding another player over there, but you've seen my Galactic Hub Adventure series, and we've pretty much been there for the past 6 months at the very least. It's very rare even for me to find another player, because even that place is absolutely huge. It's filled with solar systems, it's filled with places to hide, it's filled with planets to go on to. So it's not like PvP is going to be at every major step of the way. You're going to probably be lucky if you get it once in your playthrough at most. Third of all, it's not like multiplayer is now finally getting into the game. We already had it for almost a year now, and we had some elements of it even before Atlas Rises in the Pathfinder update, when base sharing was a thing. So if you're still on the multiplayer page, while you might find it unfair that someone could make a lot of money before you, you also have to keep in mind that we all have access to the same game, so you can all go ahead and do the same thing as everybody else. There's also the possibility for you to play the game offline. Like initially you would only need to ever connect to the online servers to upload your discoveries to the online database, or access it for that matter, but pretty much the entire universe of No Man's Sky is available in the offline mode as well. So no matter where you're going, you're still going to have access to the same game, as I've previously said. So even if a certain planet was discovered by somebody, you're still going to see whatever is on it. The game doesn't turn off when you turn off your internet. That is what I'm trying to say. Last but not least, we don't even really know the full extent of multiplayer in Next, and especially when it comes to PvPing. Since the main concern over here was in regards to PvP and griefing, Hello Games could also potentially recognize this and give us some form of way to protect ourselves. Like one such option is something that I've talked about in the past and in previous videos, and it's basically a feature that lets you toggle PvP on and off, much like base sharing. Like you can toggle that on and off as well. If you don't want your bases to be shared with others, you have the option to do that. So it would make sense for PvP to follow a same route if it does prove to be such a concern with the new update. Many have also indicated that PvP will most likely be a separate mode. Honestly, I severely doubt this. At most I think we'll only receive tweaks for the already existing game modes, but I don't think we'll ever see a new one added for that matter, especially in PvP. Like we can already do multiplayer in every single game mode out there, even on survival, permadeath and normal, so it makes no sense for this feature, since it's so big, to be added as a separate game mode. Hello Games will want a shared environment so most people could be there and play together, so I don't think PvP will be a separate game mode. In the end, however multiplayer ends up being added, or any of that feature for that matter, I seriously doubt there's ever going to be any intentional progression reset for the entire player base. It doesn't make any sense, it never happened before, it's unprecedented, especially for this game, and especially when there's so many ways around it, and it's not even that big of a deal. Like we don't really know all the details, as I've said, and I wouldn't base my expectations too high and think of it as being too extensive. Don't think of anything like that. It's not like any of the features in No Man's Sky get too over the top or too hard for you to grasp or to get ready for. If you're planning to start on Xbox, then yes, that is pretty much the exception to the rule. Since this game is now freshly being released for the Xbox, literally everybody will have no other choice but to start from the very beginning, because the game wasn't released yet. Eventually the player base will grow and people will be on various stages of their progression, so it wouldn't make sense to keep having all of these resets every time Hello Games comes out with a new big update. And if we're looking at what Hello Games and Sean Murray has said in the past, even in the previous interview, they are planning to add major updates for a long time, and it would be counterintuitive for them to keep resetting every time they add a major update. As previously mentioned, No Man's Sky never did a full deletion of anyone's progress unless it was some sort of error, and even that wasn't something widespread. So with all this being said and done, these are the main reasons why I believe this is nothing but a misconception, a misinformation, but I'm curious to see what your opinion on this is. Of course, I could still be wrong, there's still the possibility for me to be wrong and there to be an actual reset, even though, in my opinion, it's very low chance for that to happen, if not impossible. But hey, it's not like I know the future, it's not like I have any inside info, so all of this is just an opinion of mine, and I'm curious to also find yours, so don't hesitate to go ahead and post it in the comment section below. I'm going to try to read and give a response to as many as possible. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you didn't already for more videos like this, and leave a like on the video if you like it and you agree with it. But in the meantime, I will see you guys in our next adventure.